and McCann.
Greetings. Welcome to a Wake the Dead, Chant It Down collaboration. Today we are very excited to bring to you a very important episode that we hope you will enjoy and hopefully not get totally angry at us. So today I am host of Wake the Dead, and here we have Luemas, host of Chant It Down. Welcome, Luemas.
Hey, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Yeah. And we have Mark Passio, and want to welcome you to the collaboration, Mark. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and I want to thank you, Mark. You taught me more about human freedom, causality, and the true laws of nature more than anyone out there. So I appreciate your work.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Likewise. Over here. So that is wonderful, Mark. You are host and creator of sorry, I apologize. Jeez. You are host and creator of What on Earth is Happening. And that podcast has been going for many years. And you have you've had quite an arc of production, and we've seen the long gamut of your transformation into more of a sharpened sword of truth. In the beginning, you were trying to take it easy, and now you really pull no punches, and I admire that. And we are happy to have your voice here for this conversation because this topic is very important for many of us in the community. I don't know if you call it truth community, but those of us who have been down the rabbit holes have no doubt come across the psyop of flat Earth. It has been thrown in the bunch along with the 9/11 conspiracy, the JFK conspiracy. Like, we all know, like, from our discernment, we have understood that 9/11 was most definitely a globalist plan to change our entire society towards terrorism and control. And that is true. This is a true conspiracy, and we all know that JFK was not killed by a magic bullet. We all know that the COVID fiasco was a world culling operation. Those are all true conspiracies. And yet in the mix, while you're going on you see one video and then another suggested pops up and it says flat Earth. Oh, check it out. This is the real truth. You want truth? Here's some truth, buddy. And that right there is a psyop. And I really wanted to get deep into it today. And Mark, you are the perfect guest for this because long ago, when in the days of Facebook, when I was still allowed on Facebook, I was moderator of one of your discussion groups, along with Jose Perez, a good friend of ours. And there was this moment when all of a sudden flat earthers just descended upon the chat and they took over. And we were fighting them for days and days. And I can only imagine that the reason they fought so hard is because your logo has a round earth.
Right. One of the reasons. I would say one of the other reasons we saw that complete invasion into the areas of the internet that are simply trying to deal with morality and natural law and the understanding of the causal factors, the underlying causal factors of human slavery, is that they were trying to garner into their group, into their religion, into their cult, as I would call it, as many outspoken people in the truth community and as many independent researchers in the truth community into their fold. And they very specifically were sent out into our community to do that. And when I didn't bite the bait, there was a lot of disgruntled flat earth cult members out there. And again, as I've told people many times in my work, like on my podcast repeatedly, I've been repeatedly stalked by these people digitally, not in person, or at least not yet. But I've made no bones about that. I find that to be absolutely unacceptable behavior that is based in violence, because if you have told someone that you want no affiliation with them, freedom of association is one of the most basic of human rights. If someone tells a person to stay away from them, whether physically or digitally, to stop stalking them, to stop harassing them, for it to be continued to be done is a violation of a human being's right to be left alone. I consider that the first right under natural law is the right to be left alone. And they have not shown the human decency. I mean, before we even get into the mechanics of things with why flat earth is a psyop, just speaking to the types of individuals and their personalities that you deal with in this community, they are ravenous, savage religionists, is the only way that I could word it. They are savage cult members. That's how completely indoctrinated into a dogmatic system of belief that they are. I don't digitally harass or stalk anyone. I put my information on the areas of the internet that are under my, my ownership, where I want to publish my findings. That's it, of all my years and years of research. And they're free to do just that. I never go on to flat earth groups and say, I'm going to harass you about natural law and I'm going to force you into an understanding of objective morality. I put my information out onto my areas of the internet and they're free to do the same with theirs. I don't begrudge anybody their beliefs. I don't believe in stalking. I don't believe in harassment. I don't believe in any form of violence, whether it's conducted in the physical world or whether somebody is harassed in the digital world, which is certainly a form of coercion. It's a form of trespass. It's parts of the violations of natural law against an individual and their rights. I do not engage in behaviors like that. These people do, unfortunately. They're actually very immoral people as a whole, sadly. And it's really kind of almost a contradiction, because when you speak to many of them, you get right down to why they believe what they believe. It's almost universally the exact same thing. I'm sorry that I appear to be having a flickering problem on my webcam. I could try, if it becomes too distracting, I could try to adjust it, but I think I'll just let it ride for right now.
We have your voice, and that's the main part, so that's okay.
It's a contradiction in terms almost to understand that these people are very immoral in their behaviors, because one of the universal things that you'll find when you talk to flat earthers, if you do talk to them, is that almost universally the reason for their belief system in the flat earth model is because they believe in their mindset, in their worldview, that this model of our planet is going to prove the existence of a creator God, and it is going to wipe out atheism once and for all. Now, I'm no fan or friend of atheism. I'm not a fan of the mindset of atheism. I'm not a friend to the atheists who are out there. I've bitterly, philosophically attacked atheism as a untrue, false religion that holds people back in their understanding of natural law and therefore holds them in a state of slavery, which is the current human condition. I find atheism a low consciousness worldview. I find it something that is a religion in and of itself, and I've talked about this endlessly in my work. I won't really go into a repetition of that here, but uh, I feel like they thought they had a friend in me, right? They had their sky high hopes up that, wow, Mark Passio, who's not an atheist, we can really bring him into the flat Earth fold, and then he'll be, championing for us. And that's how it really was early on. That was their mindset, I believe. And when I again didn't accept that role, many of the community of people who subscribe to the flat Earth model really got butthurt badly, and they wanted to really throw it in my face because they just felt that I was going to fold into their whole belief system, and that would act as leverage to continue to associate certain aspects of the freedom community, especially those who are trying to promote and disseminate and bring to a much wider understanding of the public the underlying causal factors of the human condition of slavery, by an understanding of what immoral behavior truly is and why we should not align ourselves with it behaviorally or ideologically whatsoever. If they could identify that growing movement with, and I wouldn't say it's super large or super growing, it's in its infancy still, but if they could associate that budding movement with something as patently ridiculous as the flat Earth model and worldview, then they could take out the whole understanding of natural law movement while it was still in its infancy. And I think that was really the purpose of that initial launch of attack against me, my work, and it's been ongoing today. It's subsided quite a bit, but I'll tell you, they're still out there. I still get, as I'm sure you guys do, brutal emails. Even have gotten some, low-level threats of violence that I don't personally take seriously. I mean, as I've under no uncertain circumstances told people, you want to bring something like that to me, you're definitely messing with the wrong person, and test that assumption.
Yeah,
But
I've been to your basement. I know.
yeah, I don't really want to make it a penis measuring game here and a game of threats or anything like that. I'm just saying I leave other people alone, and if other people want to continuously harass me and not leave me alone, if they take it to a certain place where I find it a credible threat, they're not going to like the response. So, I'll just leave that at that. But
Right.
I think, that was their initial intent, was to say, we're going to get somebody who we consider, maybe a burgeoning member of the freedom community, and we're going to move them into our camp. And when that didn't happen, they just unleashed their fury. And you really can see how they really don't understand morality, and it's a shame because they're basing their entire worldview on a false model of reality, and they don't even understand what's keeping people enslaved is their lack of understanding of morality, and they display this through their behavior that they don't understand it either. They display it through their behavior that they're willing to lie, they're willing to put someone under a state of duress. They're willing to trespass against someone else's rights. They're willing to coerce other people. And it's really sad. It's a shame because they don't even understand the factors that are keeping them enslaved, and they actually believe it's about the shape of a planet. And to me, it's laughable and sad that we have adults in the world that really can't even reason to the extent that they haven't learned basic arithmetic, geometry. They haven't learned basic cosmology. They haven't learned basic astronomy. Most people have never taken any type of astronomy class, any type of self-observation of astronomical movements. And they really have badly formulated math skills in general. And they're not applying the real trivium method. They're working from a conclusion, and they're trying to reason backwards to make the data fit their conclusions. And that's not how scientific discovery is done. That's not how any truth discovery is conducted. You have to formulate an idea and then test it observationally, test it with rigid means that are repeatable, that are observable, that are testable through experimentation, observation, and experimentation. And you have to be willing to adjust your worldview and model as the data comes in. You can't stay rigidly attached to a worldview or a dogmatic understanding of something when the data is contradictory to that and is telling you something different. And I could give many examples where they do that. We could look at, if you want, I'll let you direct where you want to go, but I've basically prepared a few simple observational refutations of the flat Earth model. And if the people who may not even understand what the flat Earth model is, we could explain the general idea of what it is to them, and then I could show people a few basic observational refutations that you don't even need any kind of serious scientific equipment to do. It requires very, very little in the way of resources or money to just perform these basic observational tests, experiments. And I've thrown the challenge out there to flat earthers to do these very inexpensive observational experiments, and exactly zero of them have taken me up on even just doing an experiment, a very simple backyard experiment. They will not do it, period. They have basically said as such over and over again, we will never do that, almost all of them. And I'll throw the challenge out there again later as we go through some of these refutations. I'm sure you have many of your own that you could discuss. But over and over again, I've gotten back the same response. I will not look at the data that comes in from those type of experimentations. I will not do it.
Well, we can later on in the show, we can discuss why they said they will not. It is they're caught in a mental trap, right? And I think it would be very informative for the listeners who actually do understand science. And I've had on my show, my brother Jim is a doctor of particle physics, and he worked at CERN, and I told him about flat Earth, and he tells me, what? People, what? He never heard of it, didn't believe it. And we talked about, it was a great show. And so it would be good for you to discuss that, Mark. But I'd like to give it to Luemas first. Do you have any questions for Mark about what he just said? Do you want to take the lead here for a minute?
Well, no, I just agree with what he said. I mean, I've had a lot of harassment myself, not probably to the extent that Mark has, but I guess I should preface this in a way of how I saw this psyop come in first, maybe just a little bit of that.
Sounds good.
When I started this journey, I learned from writers and researchers like Jordan Maxwell, G. Edward Griffin, David Icke, William Cooper, John Coleman, people like that, right? Real researchers and real journalists who understood the truth discovery process, whistleblowers. And today's crowd, I feel like, has evolved to a lot of amateur research and childlike behavior in this community. I think that the larger truth community, or whatever you want to call it, has not evolved their minds since they learned the truth on things. They still think in that sort of black and white with no nuance. And nuance is a major part of this. It's missing. I feel like they haven't developed proper researching minds. And of course, these skills aren't taught in schools, but they have the same mindset as the regular mainstream people, but just different perspective. A lot of, they've learned the real hierarchy of the conspirators, but they still jump to conclusions without using the trivium, method of discovery. And it's just like, if I say to a normie that I support gun rights to a leftist, then I'm a right winger. Or if I like Trump, I'm a leftist or whatever. There's no nuance in this at all. Not that I like Trump. I'm just saying, like I'm just giving an example. But like, so it seems like there's a right-brained imbalance going on here because these elites have lied to us about everything. So now there basically is no truth and people have just gone off the deep end with it. It's almost like a paranoid personality disorder. Like when you've been cheated on or something, like with the lover or something, you have that personality. I mean, that paranoid kind of mind, and it's actually come down to, it's not quite a solipsist mindset, but almost it reminds me of this quote, and I dug it up just to talk about from the CIA director in 1981, William Casey. He says, "We will know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is a lie." So now, though, everything is a lie. And then there's basically no truth. Is basically what a lot of these people have jumped on that bandwagon, and so everything's a conspiracy. It's gone off the real deep end, and I see flat Earth as the perfect psyop for this community because they threw this into a hugely distrusting community of people, and then it's a perfect psyop for a lot of people, and I think I saw this come around 2014. It was there's a fairly like strong unit of people that agreed on the same sort of things. I mean, there's little differences, but then this swept through, and ever since it's divided people. I've gotten, hate mail from people that are in a religious mindset telling me space is fake and I'm attached to a globe. And just maybe to pause for a second, it's the exact mindset. That exact mindset is keeping humanity enslaved. It's that cult-like mindset, and
Yes.
Everybody must think like us. Flat Earth is the only truth. And honestly, I looked into it. I gave it a good amount of research. I put it through the trivium, and I did it, and then I put it through in the trash because not only did it not stand true, I saw the fruits of it. Infighting, division, religious-like mindset. People jump into ridiculous conclusions, and really what it is a lot of simplistic thinking. And the worst thing of all is that all the work that we all do to try to get the truth out to people, it's put a turd in the punch bowl. Basically, it's polluted it. So when I talk to someone who knows this information from the outside or something, and then they're going to say, "Oh, I bet you think the Earth is flat too." So it's and it just ruins the whole thing. So it's almost like a virus that has swept through the community, if you will, and it's emotionally charged. And that tells me a lot. That's something we may want to come back to, is how emotionally charged it is. Because if something's not true, it's not true, and you just kind of go on with your investigation. But these people won't. And that polarizing, emotionally charged attitude shows me there's something seriously wrong with it. But yeah, anyways.
That really is the whole purpose of the psyop, it's a guilt by association psychological warfare tactic. They want people to associate anything that is genuinely true in the alternative research community, the conspiracy community, etc. They want people to associate that with this ridiculous notion of the Earth being flat. So as you said, if you bring up, hey, 19 hijackers with box cutters did not do what happened on 9/11. What do you believe? The Earth is flat too? It's completely an association, tactic, and that is very unfortunate that the mind controllers of our world can conduct a psychological warfare op this easily upon the population, that we're still not in a state of psychological maturity, not in a state of maturity when it comes to epistemology, quite frankly. Really the understanding of how you arrive at knowledge and how you arrive at a distinction between what is true versus what is untrue. People don't have a mature epistemology. And unfortunately, the controllers of our world very deeply know that. And they're exploiting that understanding, and they can invent new religions essentially whenever they want. This is essentially what the flat earth was. This was the intelligence agencies operating mostly in the United States, but it's probably a joint operation between intelligence.
Oh, we got going on.
It's going to have
Mark,
rigid,
okay.
dogmatic beliefs. And we're going to float that out there to the truth community. A bunch of people with a damaged epistemology are going to latch onto it viciously, and then we could just let it go wherever it goes, and it'll take its course organically. And the people who don't really understand how to deploy a true truth discovery methodology are going to organically take it to its logical conclusions, or rather its illogical conclusions.
Right.
And it'll work to do the end game, the end result, which again is that guilt by association that so many people will fall for.
I wanted to mention that it works both ways, where the normies will say, oh, you believe flat earth too? And the flat earthers go, oh, you believe globe earth too?
Right.
Like it makes it so they can't receive information from other people. Like
Right.
I heard a tinfoil hat, Sam Tripoli, last week, he was talking and he was saying, any smart guy that starts talking about space, I immediately stop listening. He just said it straight up. I'm like, wow.
Can you believe what people's worldview about the majesty of the universe has devolved into? I mean, imagine the absolute majesty of the creation of the creator. And it's been diminished into, we live on a disc under a dome, like where we live in a snow globe, essentially.
Yeah.
It's sad. I mean, it's really, really badly sad, quite frankly.
Yeah, like this, just real quick, I wrote this one down because I wanted to make sure we got to it. The flat earth debate always ends up boiling down to, if you deny flat earth, like, because the Bible says so, then you are an atheist asshole, like you were saying before, Mark.
You're a heretic.
Right. And you deny our spiritual connection to God, right? Somehow, if Earth is just one of a billion other planets, then we must believe humanity is useless and our lives are meaningless.
Why would that? See, that's a completely erroneous assumption. That's a non sequitur. So they're just spouting logical fallacies and don't even understand why that's logically fallacious. Why would it imply that somehow our species, somehow our spirit, somehow our local area of the universe is somehow diminished from the rest of the universe? It's not as good just because there's countless galaxies in existence. Like the creator of the universe would just say, because I've created all of this plethora of majesty, that somehow that diminishes all life forms everywhere. Right. I mean, well, if that's the case, then that means that every place that there is life, it's completely diminished and meaningless, and that's ridiculous. It's the exact opposite. The majesty of creation means that all life is special. It means that all life is unique, and every place has its own unique place in the greatness and the majesty of creation. How could it be any other way? I mean, and just imagine thinking like it's such thinking of a spiritually immature child. As you said, it's so unidimensional in its thinking process. That the being that thinks like this, they can't even see that they're arguing against the creator of the universe. They're arguing against the power of that creation. And it's just absolutely amazing that we still have people thinking this childishly. And sadly, they're the people who can see other aspects of what's unfortunately has gone very, very wrong on this planet. They can see other aspects of the control system, and then they just go completely haywire with something like this that, it leads to a complete state whereby the people who are genuine researchers trying to get the word out, it makes their job infinitely harder. And that's the whole purpose of it. This is what you have to understand, that the occultists who are really running the show here, they are master psychologists, and they really know what they're doing. They're very, very advanced in their understanding of how people's mindset works, their reaction, their worldview, their hopes, their fears, their motivations, and they know exactly what buttons to push. That's why they're beating us so badly, because we don't even understand our own psychology as a people, as a species. We don't even understand our ability to be manipulated. We don't even get that aspect of humanity. And these people are just chess masters at it, and they're just, it's amazing the job that they're doing. Well, as I've said many times in my work, I don't even consider it, like, I don't even attack those people. Like, they're just animals doing what animals do. That's what the real controllers are. They're psychopathic lunatics acting like psychopathic lunatics. The problem is with the average person. The problem is the ignorance, the apathy, the inaction, the cowardliness of the average individual. And it starts with their ignorance. If you cannot grasp a basic understanding of some of the most simplistic concepts of reality, and you want to invent, ideas, you want to invent things that don't conform in any way to how the laws of nature really work, you're going to be able to be manipulated like taking candy from a baby. And that's what these controllers know. That's what the dark occultists know. And it really isn't even a challenge for them. Like, they probably have 5,000 other religions that they could trot out at any time, throw on the table, and a million people will pick it up and say, this is my new faith. And it's profoundly, profoundly sad that humanity hasn't advanced beyond that point at this late in the game.
Yeah.
Wow. Go ahead, Luemas. Sorry.
No, I just see this childlike mentality, simplistic. And I will say, like, I think it's important to have wonder and look at the Earth's mysteries, and it's part of being human. But it's become the opposite of being like an open-minded, like, look at things. It's become a closed-minded thing, and it's dogmatic,
Yes.
and people have become hubris. I've lost friends over this, and it honestly reminds me of a drug. It's almost like it gets them high. It's like, oh, this is the greatest truth there is. It's like, no, it's not even close. No, I mean,
and if
Imagine
they
if
only
that's the
put that
greatest
kind
truth.
of energy
ahead,
into the understanding and teaching of natural law, my God, what
Absolutely.
progress we would make. And I'm not saying natural law should be made into a dogmatic religion like the Flat Earth, because number one, it's not a dogmatic religion.
Yeah.
It's simply the laws of the universe. I'd like to look at a couple of basic observational refutations of their model, but first people have to basically understand their model. So for, viewers or listeners that do not know what the flat Earth model is, it's essentially that our planet is a disk that is embedded in ice. There's a wall of ice around it, and then there's the two major bodies of the heavens, the sun and the moon, orbit above the disk. So you have a plate-like disk. There's a wall of ice around the disk, and it goes out into apparently an infinite plane, as many of them think. And then, above the disk of the quote Earth, the sun and the moon orbit in a circle in the equatorial zone of the disk of the Earth. That's the essential flat Earth model. It varies in different aspects or sects of the flat Earth community, but that is the essential aspect of their model. The disk, the ice wall that surrounds it, and the sun and the moon circling above. And they'll say that, half of the Earth will be lit by the sun, the other half will be in darkness. Now, this, surprisingly, is one of the most basic, simplest observational refutations that one could offer. And this is the thing that will make a flat earther's mind melt down. If you want to see a flat earther completely just have a mind meltdown, all you have to do is ask one of them to explain the dynamics, the motion dynamics involved in a lunar eclipse. And 0 of them can do that without doing one thing, which we already talked about. When something doesn't fit your existing model, you must invent new data to support the model's vision. And when you realize that your model doesn't support reality is not supported by your model, then you're left with 2 things. You say that you are incorrect and you revise your model, and that's not allowed with the flat earth community. That's the ultimate sin. That's the one and only sin, is you may not acknowledge the flaw in your model. So that's thrown right out. That's what all religion does. All religion says my conclusions must be correct and nothing can refute that. See, that's the nature of religion, period. You know you're dealing with a religion when there's no possibility for any improvement in the observation of the model, any reform of the model, any refutation of the model is not permitted. That's what dogma is. Dogma is you're locked into a complete a worldview that may not be changed. So you know that you're dealing with religion right there. And just my definition of the difference between religion and a cult, religion is something that by believing in its untrue aspects, you lock yourself away from moving further in consciousness. So religion is something that is untrue, that someone stays latched onto dogmatically, and it blocks the further movement of their consciousness forward into any levels above where they are at. That's religion. Now, when it becomes, when a belief system that falls under the characteristics of religion becomes dangerous to others who don't subscribe to that worldview, don't subscribe to that belief system, when danger is then present for non-believers by believers conducting violence upon them, that's when you've crossed the line between religion and a cult. Okay, not occult, but a cult. It has become a cult at that point. Okay, so I would say that Flat Earth does meet the requirements of what a cult is defined as, because they have stepped across the boundary line of it just being a dogmatic belief system, and it has become something that they are actually using this belief system as a mechanism and an excuse to actually step upon the rights of other people, and that is violent behavior. As soon as you are transgressing upon the rights of other beings, you are initiating violence, and you don't have the right to do that. And that is actionable. When you transgress against the rights of another being, it's an actionable offense. Whether it's the government doing it, whether it's the military doing it, the police doing it, it doesn't matter who's doing it. When someone has initiated violent action upon another being, the person who is on the receiving end of that violence has the right of self-defense. And I would say that they have crossed the line, and it has not yet gone kinetic physically, but they have crossed that line into cult territory, and they are violating people's rights in the sense of they are coercing, they are putting people under duress, they are essentially trespassing upon the rights of other people through harassment. That is where many of their members have taken it. They are a proselytizing cult. See, it's okay for religions to exist. I don't have any problem with religions existing. If Flat Earth just stayed a harmless religion, I don't have a problem with that. If people want to believe nonsense, they're free to believe nonsense. That's what freedom is. Freedom is you're free to be wrong about things that don't concern human rights. Okay. And flat earth doesn't really concern human rights, certainly not directly. They would probably make the argument it does indirectly, but I don't think it does directly or indirectly involve human rights. It's not about morality. It's about the shape of something, of the place where we live. That to me is not about rights. Someone pushing a worldview onto someone else does involve rights. That does involve the flagrant violation of the person's rights who that worldview has been being pushed upon. I call this in my work worldview violence. And flat earth is a very, very clear example of worldview violence. It fits all the definitions thereof. So I consider it a cult. And you could ask these cult members, explain to me the lunar eclipse. And the reason they'll freak out about that, and they will have to invent something new to fit the model, because just based on their initial model, the lunar eclipse cannot be explained. Okay, so the lunar eclipse occurs when some object comes in between the sun and the moon and projects a spherical, a round shadow, a two-dimensional shadow, which would be cast by some type of a round or spherical object upon the surface of the moon, and then eventually it passes away from the moon's surface. And in the flat earth model, that cannot be the earth, because the earth would have to be spherical. So, and it certainly couldn't be the earth, because the disk of the earth cannot get in between the sun and the moon, right? Because the sun and the moon are always above the disk of the earth, right? So now, honestly, folks, if you don't believe me, you may have to go out and ask the flat earth community themselves, because while I'm not a member of their community, I'm going to tell you what their answer is to this conundrum, okay? They will not say, well, the lunar eclipse cannot happen on our model, because that's not allowed. The model must be true, remember, right? So you cannot say, I'm looking at my own model and I see no way for the lunar eclipse to occur. So they have two basic answers to this. And the first is the shadow object. No, I kid you not. That is the actual answer of the flat earth community. The majority of the flat earth community will say an object that is heretofore unknown and unseen, that has no gravitational effect. Whether they accept the concept of gravity or not is another story, which many of them don't. It has no ability to be observationally witnessed. All the object is a shadow. It literally is darkness, and it just passes in front of the moon. When the earth, moon, and sun are apparently aligned in this fashion, only at that time. It then comes out of whatever dimension it's been hiding in for eternity, and it suddenly makes its way across the disk of the moon, the face of the moon, and then continues on its way, never to be seen or heard from again until the next lunar eclipse. And I swear to you, that is actually in the flat earth explanation for a lunar eclipse. The other explanation, which you might hear, and it comes up a little bit less frequency, is that the moon itself does not exist and is a holographic projection. Right. And or the face of the moon that does face the earth is some type of a projection. And the lunar eclipse is just the movement of this projected shadow across the moon, just to fool us into believing that the earth is actually a sphere. I mean, what I'm
just to
saying
fool us.
should we have to have this discussion in the year 2024? We shouldn't be on to bigger and better things about maybe why is humanity enslaved? Why are we a species that is operating in a condition of human slavery, of covert occultic slavery? And how to get out of that system of mind control, and how to actually have our rights be intact because we behave in accordance with the morality of the laws of the universe. No, we can't even begin to have that discussion because we're arguing over the shape of the damn planet. And with such a ridiculous observational model that cannot predict any eclipses, period. And when you just ask them, just please explain the dynamics of a lunar eclipse, their mind melts down, and then they come up with the laughable faith-based theory of an unknown, unseen shadow object. I mean, this is how childish humanity actually is. This is where we're at as a species, folks.
I just wanted to interject. There's another one that I've heard where the moon has its own light. It shines like it's its own luminary, and it has phases. And
but how would that explain the lunar eclipse? A shadow just suddenly comes across it.
It's like a curved. Point? It's a curved. It's because I can't. I don't know. I'm sorry.
It's almost difficult to elaborate what they believe in many instances, especially when you ask them for, please explain like a complicated motion like an eclipse. That many of them will come up with very, very, very convoluted ideas that really make very little sense.
Yeah.
So that's one of the basic observational refutations is the lunar eclipse. And by the way, they're hung up on the idea that you can't see curvature of the Earth from the ground. You would have to get quite a distance above the planet to begin to see the curvature. All you really have to do is look at any software that shows you basic 3D modeling of the Earth and other planets. And just start on the ground and then have the software just take you up. And you'll see how far up above the Earth you would have to get to see the horizon begin to curve. This is one of their biggest arguments. And they really don't understand size. That part of their biggest problem is proportion and distance. And they don't really understand how large the Earth is. They don't understand how topologically smooth the Earth is. It's another big thing that has to be brought up to people like this, and to get them to see things in a state of ratio and proportion, because they have a very poor internal understanding of proportion. And many of these people are people who probably have not really traveled. They have not been in an airplane. I've talked to flat earthers where they say, I was in an airplane for the first time and I couldn't believe how far, even a small journey in an airplane, how large the Earth must be. It's colossal. The Earth is colossal compared to our size. And then when you look at how small the Earth is compared to other astronomical bodies, it's like you could put 1 million of our planet inside the circumference of the sun. I mean, it's just amazing. Volume wise, you could put 1 million Earths inside of our star. You could put billions of our star in the largest observable stars that we can see today. It's truly amazing, the scale of the universe. And again, it's sad, and it speaks to their disrespect for the Creator's majesty. These aren't people who are doing justice to God. They're not doing justice to God's the majesty of God's creation at all. They're diminishing it. They're mocking it. It's for people who claim to be a religious folk. They're not really respecting God very much at all, sadly, because if we really do understand the power and majesty of the Creator and its creation, maybe we would act a little bit differently too. Maybe we would get a little bit smarter, and we would become more moral creatures, and we would align our behaviors to the laws of the God of creation, because we witness its majesty in every time and place in our world. And that's just not the case with these people or many other people on this planet, for that matter, sadly.
I wanted to say that there's kind of a hint of Gnostic hatred for God.
Yes.
Because they believe we're trapped here in the puddle.
Right.
Trapped within a wall,
Right.
And it's almost like Yaldabaoth or what the Gnostic
The
demiurge.
demiurge, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a sad. I find that a very sad model of creation. That the creator is some evil deity. You could look outside at any given night in a nice clear area and just witness a sunset. And tell me that's evil. Go out in the forest and go check out some deer families
Right.
and tell me that's an evil creation.
Hold
The
your baby
demiurge
and
just
look it
made
in the
all this
face.
stuff and it's all evil and it's all there just to enslave us. No, creation isn't evil. Creation didn't make itself to enslave us. We did that. We enslaved ourselves through our ignorance, our apathy, our laziness, our cowardice. We did that. Let's take responsibility for that, and then let's learn and grow and learn all the causal factors that led us into that condition, and then let's transcend them, and then actually become free, and then move on to bigger and better things. How about we start there instead of thinking that some evil deity, trapped us under glass. They trapped us under the dome. And it's just like the whole Gnostic version of the cosmology really is an overly right-brained, religiosified cosmology that is because they don't see a way out of the moral conundrum, because they don't really understand the relationship between morality and freedom, that as morality increases, freedom increases, and as morality declines, freedom declines. They don't understand the one-to-one proportionality of morality and freedom and have never made that causal connection because they don't really have a truly activated logic circuits going on in their mind. Because they don't see that connection, they think there is no way out of the condition of human slavery, if they even have recognized that we are an enslaved species and that's the human condition. And they'll go automatically to the worst possible worldview, which is that it's made to be this way. That's an insult to the Creator. That's an insult to God, because what God gave us is the greatest gift of all of creation, free will to make our own behavioral choices, but not chaos, law, unbreakable, unwavering, perfect law, perfect order. To say, if you choose these things that are immoral, this will be your result, and it will be chaotic, disorderly, and you'll be enslaved. And if you choose behaviors that are in alignment with the greatness of natural law, then you'll have order, you'll have peace, you'll have harmony, you'll have prosperity, and you'll have freedom. This is the genius of all of creation, and it's not created to torment us with its unknowability. It is created for us to discover how it works so that we can then choose of our own free will to align our behavior to our best possible evolutionary outcome. That's perfect love. That is perfect love of the Creator. And people can't see it. As I've said in a numerous amount of times in my work, there is nothing wrong with creation. There is nothing wrong with the laws of the universe. They are operating perfectly. It's us who are effed up. We're badly effed up. And our worldview is badly screwed up. And that's why we're not getting the results that we say we want to receive. We're getting the exact opposite, because our mind, our emotions, and our behaviors are totally incongruent, and we are not bringing all of the aspects of our consciousness into unity consciousness, such that as we think, so we feel, and so we behave, and that's all aligned with the objective moral laws of the universe. We're nowhere near that state of consciousness, sadly. So let's look at another observational proof of flat Earth, which can be conducted for about $20. This is an experiment that anyone can conduct for themselves for probably just shy of $20 if you just surf around a little bit, shop around a little bit on Amazon or eBay or wherever else you want to take a look at these objects. Two simple pieces of scientific equipment. a set of solar observation glasses, or what they call eclipse glasses. You don't even need to use them if you do this with the moon. Okay, you could do it with the moon if you have a nice clear view of the sky, and you could save yourself $10 and do the experiment for $10 instead of 20. It will work with the sun or the moon. You could buy observational solar glasses, or eclipse glasses as they're called, $10 on Amazon for a halfway decent pair. You can get a digital caliper for about $10. Okay, and maybe you want to even incorporate maybe a ruler or a stick of some kind, just so you keep it the exact same distance away from your eye when you make the observation. You could incorporate like, a yardstick or something, tape the caliber to the yardstick, or if you just hold it at arm's length, make sure, you don't extend your elbow or your arm anymore, just, a good, nice, steady distance. You could do it like that, and you'll get statistically consistent results with this observational experiment. So all you need to do is observe the sun or the moon during the course of a day, okay, and make measurements as to the apparent size using the digital caliper of the amount of space the sun or the moon takes up in the sky as they traverse the day or the night sky. Very simple experiment. Okay, and just write down your observations that come up on the caliper. It's this much distance in the sky. It's this much distance. It's this much distance, and write down your observation of the results you get in the caliper, and just record them, and you'll have a consistent set of data. Observationally, statistically, you won't have, an outrageous difference during the course of any given day of the size of the sun or the moon, which means that they stay a consistent distance away from the Earth or the surface of the Earth where you're observing them. This is very simple geometry. It's very simple astronomical observation. You can't get any simpler than this. It's about the simplest observational experiment that you could possibly do. And, because their model would project or predict something different, right? So just let's look at their model again. You have the disk. You have the sun and the moon go above the disk. They'll say that the rising and setting of the sun and the moon correspond to the distance at which they orbit above the disk of the Earth. So let's say you have, here's the disk of the Earth, okay? And you have a stationary observer here. The sun goes like this above their head, okay? So as the sun comes closer, they're saying it's rising. Then when it's above their head, that's noon. And then when it goes this way, it's setting. Then you can't see it anymore because it's too far toward the other side of the disk. So they'll say that it has passed the converging lines of perspective, and therefore it has quote unquote set. Now, you don't even need to do this experiment to prove that this cannot be true, because anything that is moving closer to you visually, as my hand is right now, here it's smaller, here it's larger, here it's smaller, here it's larger. Any object in the universe, distance-wise, will appear, if you're bringing it way further away from you and then way closer to the observer, it's going to change in apparent size with respect to the observer's viewpoint. This is a kindergarten child could tell you this. Okay, a nursery school student could tell you this.
It's crazy because how can the light from the sun just stop? Like, we know the property of light, it keeps going. It doesn't stop at a certain distance and then beyond that it's nighttime.
Right.
It's crazy too.
Even just looking at how light works on their model, that's true. So if you just look at the apparent size, you will see it stays consistent during the day, or if you're doing this with the moon, it stays consistent at night. It does not get apparently closer to you. So, you look at their model, right? Let's take a disk, right? Okay, here's a disk, an old optical disk, right? Okay, here on their model, the disk does this. Okay, so when it's here, it's on the other side of the planet, right? And this is smaller. It takes up this much space from here to here on your screen. When it's then rising, as they say, and then coming to noon, look at how much space it takes up on your screen. Then it goes back this way, and it only takes up this much space. It's got to change drastically in apparent size during the course of any given day. It must. So if you just start with a flat earther saying, just let me understand, is this your model? This is the disk of the earth. This is the sun. Would the sun do this during the course of a day? And they'll say yes. Well, then, would it not, by definition, have to look larger here and have to look smaller here and then have to look larger here and have to look smaller here? Would, by definition, it have to do that? And then they'll start slowly thinking, maybe I shouldn't say anything else, because they can't refute the model. The model is God to them. The model is God. So you cannot contradict the model because the model must be true. So they won't do the experiment to measure the apparent size of the sun or the moon during the course of the day because that observationally must disprove the model. I will not speak to any flat earther who will not conduct this simple experiment. You're telling me what your own model predicts. Observe and test whether that holds up to the scrutiny of data and do the experiment. Zero. I have challenged tens of thousands of flat earthers. Just do this simple experiment. If you don't want to take the chance of damaging your eyes with solar observation glasses, having to even point your eyes at the sun, do it with the moon at night on a cloudless evening. As a matter of fact, you will actually witness the exact inverse of their model, because when any body, any astronomical body is low on the horizon before it goes higher above the observed horizon, it will look larger, not smaller as their model would predict, because if you simply look at how the atmosphere is above the surface of the earth, and you just draw a line, just do this with two concentric circles. Make two concentric circles, one this big and one this big, concentric circles, meaning their centers are the same, okay? And you look at the outer circle as the atmosphere of the earth, and you look at the inner circle as the earth itself. Draw a line from the very top point straight up, and draw a line from the very top point of the inner circle straight outward, orthogonal or tangential, orthogonally tangential to the inner circle, okay? Which one will cover more distance in the atmosphere? It will not be the one straight overhead. It will be the one that's tangential to the inner circle. It will move, the light will move through much more atmosphere from a stationary observer on the planet than it will directly overhead. By geometric definition, the very basic definition of concentric circles, okay? The ground and the top layer of atmosphere. That's it, okay? And you will see that's the reason that astronomical bodies, when we see them on the horizon, the light is coming through more atmosphere than it is when it's overhead. So it looks slightly observationally larger, especially under certain atmospheric conditions, okay? On a pretty cloudless day, you will not get a whole drastic statistical difference when you measure the sun or the moon in apparent size. Under certain atmospheric conditions, you will get a slightly statistical variation in size, but it will be larger, not ever smaller. Sorry, go ahead,
Right.
Sean.
I was going to say that for one, the sun and the moon set down behind the horizon. We see it like disappear but the atmosphere is it's comprised of air and water. Like there's water droplets, and those act as a lens.
That's right.
So that's why you get the red shift on the moon when you have the lunar, because the red bends at a different angle than the blue and the green.
Yeah.
You'll get a slight amount of refraction, which could very slightly statistically vary your data when the object is very low on the horizon. Quickly upon ascending above the horizon, you won't get any statistical variation. It will stay the same apparent size the entire day. You can conduct this experiment for $10 if you want to do it with the moon, or $20 if you want to do it with the sun. You could do it in your own backyard on a relatively cloudless day. Okay? And 0 flat earthers have ever taken me up on this challenge. And I would project and predict 0 ever will.
Well, maybe they will hear this episode and they'll test they'll challenge their own beliefs. Maybe they can crawl out of this.
Do you really believe that, though? Because I believe it'll be more death threats. I believe it'll be more harassment. It'll be more angry, vicious, nonsensical emails,
Right.
more coercion because they're immoral people and they try to coerce other people into believing what they believe. I believe it'll be more trespass against other individuals' rights, more trying to force an association with someone. See, this is the big one that bothers me. It's like, if someone doesn't want interaction with you and you try to force that interaction, that's harassment and coercion and trespass. Clear and simple. And they don't even understand that that's morally wrong. Stop pushing your beliefs on other people. It makes you look like crazy, kooky cultists. And I'm perfectly content to letting you have your beliefs. Believe whatever you want. Especially this belief isn't dangerous to freedom. The belief in the earth being a disk is not dangerous to freedom unless there's an association with the freedom community. And that's what they're trying to push so hard. See, that's their game, folks. Their game is not even to get people to believe the earth is flat. Their game is, we need to associate this bullshit with the freedom community, because then everybody else will hear the words freedom and associate it with flat earth, with nonsense. That's the real psyop that is afoot here.
Like Dave Weiss going to Anarchapulco with all those flat earth people. You know, it really, after that Anarchy documentary about Anarchapulco, and then now this.
Which was a total hit piece, trying to make the whole community look like they were, drug deal, associated with drug dealers and the cartels, and were just totally selfish narcissists. And that was just, I'm not going to say that doesn't exist, the anarchist community. Sure it does. But it's a tiny, tiny little fraction. I mean, you looked at the whole community of people that were there at Anarchapulco. That was just a great conscious community in general that are discussing elevated ideas and discussing morality in many cases. Some of them are there all about the crypto and the money and stuff like that. Some of them, are there for hedonistic purposes. But that's a small portion of that community. And this hit piece, as you're referring to, made it look like it was all of them. That's what they want to do with this. Flat Earth is like a hit piece directed toward the freedom community to say, look at all these kooky nuts talking about that human beings are enslaved. They're all flat earthers. And you know what? Sadly, a good portion of people who believe in, who really do want human freedom are flat earthers. It's a lot of people. This is not a small group, folks.
No.
This is a gigantic proportion of the whole freedom community at large, and that's the quote unquote dangerous aspect of it. In and of itself, this belief is not dangerous. Where it becomes quote unquote dangerous, I'm not going to say it's physically dangerous because of this. It becomes something that is problematic to the freedom community by association with these believers in this model.
I'll tell you what, my personal experience having a podcast, I was sent a letter by Dave Weiss or his people, I guess, requesting to be on my show. I didn't answer. I just like, whoa, dump in the trash. Luemas, did that happen for you? Did you?
No.
This guy, because he's got an app. He's selling an app
Right.
And this app every day gives a new flat earth documentary. So every day these people wake up and they get more programming. And
Yep.
then they're isolated in their little box, and they, their wife leaves them and their kids hate them, and they just watch these I mean, how is that not
Imagine how effective
Yeah.
the intelligence agency community has been in taking these people off of the true nature of the problem on this planet and getting them nowhere near an understanding of natural law. Zero. None. Not even close to an understanding of it. And they actually believe they're serving the purpose of human freedom. And they have no clue about natural law. And this is all they talk about and discuss among each other. Like I said, we are a species of like little infants in crapped diapers that they could just lead around by the nose at will. And they know that that's where they have us. The community of occultists that are really running the show, the master psychologists behind every world religion, behind every government, behind every banking institution, behind all the corporations, the whole corporate world. These people are just absolute psychological masters, and they just have people. They got them in a mental noose, and they're just swinging them around by it. I mean, it's unbelievable. I would not have thought it possible when I was even first waking up back in the early 2000s, late 90s into the early 2000s, but certainly awake by the early 2000s. I never would have dreamed it would have come to this. Even what the Satanists told me when I was involved with them, they said, wait till you see the religious dogma we're going to invent. But it was all about the New Age community that they discussed that. They didn't talk about inventing things about like, something like this. I never would have dreamed it even possible. And they invented an entire new religion.
I'll tell you,
and quickly too. They did it quickly.
There's the bait and switch where they tell the people, or whoever, like whatever, the people believe if they can just get beyond the ice wall, there's more land, there's freedom. Maybe we won't have to pay taxes. I actually heard that. I was like, what?
And so
why can't we stay here?
These people would believe the answer would be run away and let all the other slaves just live in that pond over there. We'll get to another pond.
Yeah.
Imagine that mentality. That you're only concerned about you. You don't care because the non-believers are over there. As long as we can get all of our believers somewhere else, we'll live free and let them be enslaved forever.
Yeah, and I think it was David Weiss. You mentioned him. He was on Alex Jones, and he said, Alex, the reason for this is they're trying to hide God.
Right.
That's what they said. And
yes, I saw that.
Yeah, it's like they have a fear of the expanse of the universe, that this could be an endless universe. And I can just say, like, we talk a little bit about travel. The Earth has shown me it's round. I have family all over, and I do like to explore Earth. I don't like flying, but anyway. But I don't think these people leave their mom's basements. That's what it is. I flew from LA to Dubai and went over the North Pole. And why? Because these are closer routes. It saves like 2 hours, and it's because of the curve of the Earth. Same with if you go to New York to Hong Kong. And then I did another trip. This is the biggest trip I ever did. I live in Hawaii. I went from here to Australia, and then I went from Australia to Europe. If I would have gone to Europe to, let's say, New York, and then flown back to Hawaii, I would have circled the Earth. So where's this ice wall? It's like, and also just to refute two other things too, like the Panama Canal and what's that one? The Suez Canal were created so you can sail around the Earth, but these people won't take any of these challenges. They're much more expensive than what you propose, Mark, but like still, like these people won't do it, And I've even had a flat earther write me that there's no such thing as a flight from New Zealand to Chile. Well, I've done that. And what, I didn't go on that flight. It's just, it's crazy.
It's very similar to when people will tell me the occult doesn't exist, and I spent
Right.
a good portion of my life inside of it. It's like, you're going to tell me my experiences didn't happen. It's truly amazing, the hubris of some people to tell people that they weren't on airplanes making the flights that they were on.
It can't be true because it's against the model that is my God in my brain.
Then absolutely we have to invent new data, or we have to refuse to look at existing data. Another couple of quick ones. You could look at the rising and setting of the sun on the equinoxes. This is a very good observational refutation. And again, I'm only going to stick with observational refutations. I'm not going to do anything more complicated than that, right? So it doesn't involve going anywhere. It doesn't involve buying expensive equipment. I've suggested one observation that has two extremely inexpensive pieces of equipment. Again, $10 a piece. But in general, these require no equipment and just simple observation and recording of your results. So this refutation is the observation of the rising and setting of the sun during the spring equinox or the autumnal equinox. And if the flat Earth model were correct, the angle of the sun's path at sunrise, the sun's rising path at sunrise and setting path at sunset, would be different all over the Earth during the spring equinox and the autumnal equinox, the autumn equinox. Yet, observationally, if we just simply look at the angle that the sun rises and sets at the equinoxes, it is a orthogonal angle to the horizon. It is a 90-degree angle at just about every place on the planet on those 2 days. Very simple visual observational refutation of a flat Earth model, which on their model could not occur. And yet we could just check that just about everywhere. You're going to see a slight statistical variation at the extreme poles. At the very north poles, probably above 90 to 95 degrees north and 90 to 95 degrees south, you'll see some angular variation, but not even drastic, but there will be some. But just about everywhere else on the planet, it rises and sets at an orthogonal angle on the equinoxes. So that's observational refutation number 3. I'll offer one more, but if you want to chime in with whatever else, go right ahead.
Well, real quick, the stars would all be the same if we're all on a flat disk. We'd all have the same perspective of the stars, and people in the southern half of the planet see different stars than people in the north. So obviously, there's another observational easy one.
Without a doubt. And that could involve having to travel, or at least, rely on the observation of someone who is in the southern hemisphere. But if you wanted to actually witness that yourself, yes, you would have to travel to the southern hemisphere. So that's another good one that could be included in these simple visual refutations. Observational refutations is what I'm going to stick with. So that could be number 4. Number 5. This is a really simple one, but it would also involve either going to the southern hemisphere or having someone that who lives in the southern hemisphere point a video camera and record their results. And this would be just looking at shadows on the ground in the southern hemisphere. If the flat Earth model were correct, there could never be northward pointing shadows in the low southern hemisphere. Couldn't happen, because if, again, you look at their model, here's the disk of the Earth, above you have the sun, but the sun would be going around at a place in the disk that would not ever take it beyond a certain place of the far aspects of the disk toward the quote ice wall, which would be the low southern hemisphere. So let's say you went into if you were an observer in southern Argentina or southern Chile, or let's say southern Australia, etc. And the sun would never go past that toward the ice wall. It would always be closer to the center of the disk at all times of the year. So you could never get a northward pointing shadow in the southern hemisphere, because that would mean that the sun would have to go further south than a stationary observer in the low southern hemisphere. So this is easily disproven, because during the summer in the southern hemisphere, when the sun is angularly, if here's the sun and this is the earth, the angular aspect of the earth's axial tilt, 23.5 degrees, with the southern hemisphere pointing toward the sun. When that happens, you can get northward pointing shadows. So you just have to go into the southern hemisphere during summer for the southern hemisphere, and you can have a simple visual refutation, because you will get northern pointing shadows during an average day, where that could not happen during according to the flat earth model. It's visually impossible. It could not occur in their model, yet we can visually, observationally witness it during a southern summer in the southern hemisphere. Very easy to refute. And if you don't want to travel there, get someone that you trust who does live there, put a stick in the ground during the summer in the southern hemisphere, and put a video camera on it. And you'll realize that the shadow cannot be doing that if the flat earth model were correct.
I know we have some listeners in Australia and in the southern hemisphere of the planet, the hemisphere of the planet.
Yeah.
And I
living in
challenge
the
all of you-
atmosphere, sphere. Yeah, all right. There's
Right.
no other word for that one. They can't call it the half disc, the lower part of the plate.
Right.
You know, the atmosphere. You're stuck with that one, guys. Try to get around that.
Yeah. So,
Another one.
The breathable zone. Right.
Another one they could do is how hurricanes spin. So hurricanes spin counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere,
Right.
and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. I live
Coriolis effect. Yes.
Coriolis effect, yeah. And they don't cross the equator, because actually I think the Earth is kind of bulges out right there. So you'll notice if, well, I live in Hawaii, so I don't live that close to the equator, but we do watch these hurricanes, and someone could do this. They never cross the equator, and if they do, they dissipate, because they kind of turn the other direction. So it's simple. You can just watch hurricanes and see if they do that. Yeah,
Absolutely. There's
Very
so
good
many
point.
other visual refutations that are very easy to conduct. And, the main thing this all goes back to is the one problem with all of humanity, and that is religious belief systems. Truth doesn't conform to a religious belief system. The laws of creation don't conform to religious belief systems. The human mind has to conform to the actual way that reality works and the actual laws of nature. We have to stop trying to make the truth. We have to stop trying to make our religion into the truth. We have to start making the truth our religion. The one thing that we truly follow needs to be what is good and true. And we're not doing that as a species. We're inventing and creating dogma. We're inventing data that doesn't exist. We're using the imagination in all of the wrong, inappropriate ways. And what we're really not doing is we're not just observing the big laws of creation. We're not observing the behavioral laws of creation, the laws that most affect what will happen to a human being during the course of their lifetime and into the future. We're not looking at those things. And if the flat earthers would understand the importance of the laws of the creator and stop worrying about the shape of a planet in their distorted worldview, they would go much further in their understanding of what got us to this condition of slavery. Okay. And what I want to say, I don't believe in their worldview. I don't believe in their conclusions. I don't really have a lot of respect for them as people because, quite frankly, I very much consider them ignoramuses. They're people who don't understand how to do basic arithmetic, basic geometry, higher forms of math. Forget about it, and their cosmology is that of far lower consciousness than a nursery school child. And I can't tell you, I'd be lying to you if I said I have respect for that kind of intelligence. I don't. I don't have to respect you. I don't need to like anybody. You don't need to respect me. You don't need to like me. What we do need to do is leave room for people to have beliefs as long as they're not dangerous cult beliefs. Dangerous cult beliefs, those are actionable, right? Like when somebody says, if you try to live free, I don't believe that my vision or my idea of God wants you to be that, and therefore we're going to come in and rule you in a religious capacity. That's what caliphates do, right? This is like what an Islamic caliphate is. It's like we've merged religion and the government, and we're going to tell you how you have to live, and we're going to tell you what God's laws are and how you have to conform to them, right?
Like the Catholic Church.
And it'll be the most ridiculous thing. Like, oh, we're going to have to circumcise women in the way that men are circumcised in most places. You're going to have to cover up. No music like this is allowed. Homosexuality is punishable by death, etc., so forth. When the real laws of creation are: don't murder, assault, rape, steal, trespass, coerce, or deceive. Don't do those things because you're stealing from other people when you do those things. Learn what your property is, learn what it's not, and stop taking things that don't belong to you. Don't take life that doesn't belong to you. Don't take property that doesn't belong to you. Don't take rights that don't belong to you. Don't coerce anybody. Don't align your thoughts with people who do those behaviors. Don't make excuses for them. Don't condone the violent things that they will do, right? And it's like all we have to do is respect regular beliefs that don't initiate violence. And I'm willing to do that, right? I'm willing to say to every flat earther, here's my peace olive branch offered to the flat earth community. I'm willing to say, while I don't respect you as far as how I perceive your intelligence level, I don't have to. That doesn't mean that I have any right to do any violence unto you, nor should you have any right to try to do any violence coercively, put me under duress, trespassing against my rights, in a forced association, right? Leave me alone. I'll leave. I've never incurred on your guys' right to discuss what you want or believe what you want, ever, once, and never will, because I know the boundaries of my rights. I don't have the right to force you to believe what I want you to believe. I don't have the right to force you to not believe. If you want to believe the earth is flat, go believe whatever you want. Leave me alone and leave other people who have asked you to leave them alone. Because if you're not doing that, you've just become another oppressive government or religious caliphate. And I'm not interested in those things in my life. I think those things should be destroyed, right? I think all government is violence, is coercion, is duress, is slavery. I think all religious caliphates are violence, coercion, duress, and slavery. And those things should be destroyed from the surface of the earth, whether it's round, flat, octahedral, or otherwise. It doesn't matter, okay? When you have violence like that, you should seek to stop it and put it out of our world. I want a world free of the initiation of violence. That's what I'm fighting for. And if you want real freedom, that's honestly what you should try to understand we should all be fighting for. And you can have your belief that the earth is flat. Then you can go and observationally test it. You can go wherever you want beyond the ice wall, and good luck. Enjoy exploring all of that, right? I think you should be free to explore it. You should be free to discuss it. Just keep it within the boundaries of your community respectfully. I'm not coming into your community and saying, you have to learn what I'm saying in my podcast. Never once, ever. I don't harass anybody. I don't send anybody email. Believe me, I don't want to be on the computer all goddamn day. I don't want to be sending emails to people. Quite frankly, I don't really like many people. I don't want to communicate with them. I don't want to be doing this shit, quite frankly. Okay?
We're glad you're here, though.
I
so
want to
thank you.
kick back in a bowling alley with a beer and roll a little bit. That's what I want to do. And I very rarely ever do that because I'm doing this shit, right? It's like I didn't ever want to have to teach people natural law. I'm dragged into that kicking and screaming because I realize how ignorant people are. And if it gets worse, it's all of our asses. It's all of our slavery. And it's not the slavery of people who believe in flat earth versus people who believe in sphere earth. It's the slavery of everybody, right? We're all being brought under this oppression, right? I'm willing to let people have their harmless religious belief systems, and if they simply leave me out of it. I'm not in that religious belief. I'm not in that cult, and I don't want to be harassed to be in it. And that's my right to be left out of it. That's called freedom of association. And you have the freedom of association to go and affiliate with other people who believe the earth is flat. Go do it. Knock yourselves out, guys. Stop trying to force your religion onto me. That's the same as what government does. That's the same as what religious caliphates do. And that makes you an immoral and violent person. Just don't do those things. That's all. There's my olive branch to the flat earth community for what it's worth.
That's great. I just wanted to say what you were talking about how they can grow out of this. And you say on your show many times about the first step in learning the occult is to stop lying to yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the first dictate of the hermetic pathway of initiation into the occult world and into true occult philosophy. There's 5 steps to that initiatory process. The first is stop lying to yourself, because if you tell yourself things that just continue to reinforce your dogmatic belief systems, you're very willing to lie to other people as well, because you don't check yourself first. Check yourself, check your assumptions, check your axioms, your underlying foundational beliefs upon which you build everything else. If you build on a false axiom, you're building on unsolid foundation. And then everything you built on top of that's is going to be unsturdy and that's not going to provide a proper foundational framework of any ideology or philosophy. Number 2 is stop dreaming. Stop thinking that the world works a way other than how it actually works. Don't project a rosy world vision onto a situation of slavery. Try to really understand the laws of creation, both physical and spiritual, both seen and unseen, both those which affect matter and those which affect the consequences of our behaviors, of our chosen behaviors, based on our free will choices. That's the second part. The third part is stop lying, stop dreaming, learn how to think, really engage the trivium process.
Yeah.
This is how you really grow in your understanding of how reality works. You learn the truth discovery methodology, or the true scientific methodology. And that comes from trying to form some type of hypothesis about how a model of reality works and then testing it. You test that with observation, with measurement, with experimentation.
There's
and
no
then
contradictions in nature.
That's
right?
correct.
So that's how you know what's real. Right.
So you want to align with that concept of no contradiction. So if there are contradictions in your projected hypothesis of your model and your observational data, then you have to go back and you have to revise the model. This is what I'm just simply explaining with these observational refutations, is go and look at the data and revise the model. And the easiest one is just look at the sun and the moon traverse the sky. They don't start way far away and then get way close to you and then do the same thing. They're basically the same size in the sky during the course of a day, which means that the distance stays constant. And that's a proof of that we're rotating. We're our frame of reference is just staying basically the same distance away, and that's why it doesn't grow or shrink at all. Okay, so that will help you revise the model. And so the whole trivium process is gather your data, test your data, or go through all of the observational experimentation that you need to, so that you weed out all inconsistencies. Because as you said, nature is consistent with itself. When there's an inconsistency, that means it doesn't meet the criteria for the truth discovery methodology, and it has to be removed from the model. And then finally, you're going to publish your results. You have to share your data with other people, and that's making media, publishing in books, publishing in podcasts, etc. Just speak what you have learned. And this is grammar, logic, and rhetoric. Grammar are putting all the pieces, the informational pieces together. Logic is doing the informational transforms upon the data to weed out logical inconsistencies. And then rhetoric is publishing your results. This is knowledge, understanding, and wisdom in the ancient version of the trivium. Wisdom means right action. It's doing the right thing with what you have come to know and to understand how things work. That's the third part of the initiatory process of learn how to think. The fourth is live in the present moment. This means don't live in the past, don't live in the future, don't dwell on the past because it's gone and you're never going to get any past moments back, and don't live in perpetual anxiety over the future. But what it also means is pay attention. Learn how to control the thoughts of the mind and quiet them so you can bring in new data. Because if this is always full and chattering and there's no space in the mind, nothing new can come in to teach oneself. You cannot be taught if the mind is just rampaging all the time with its chatter. The internal dialogue has to be taught to be tamed. It doesn't mean you completely and utterly devastate all thought and there's silence permanently. No, that's not what meditative techniques try to teach you to do. They teach you how to calm the chatter of the mind, calm the internal dialogue, such that when new information is speaking, you're able to pay full present moment attention to the new data that's coming in. That's the fourth step. The fifth step is activate the physical body, because you're going to need it in the probable coming physical kinetic activity that we're going to probably be experiencing in the not too distant future, either during a collapse situation or a situation of kinetic warfare, which is looking very probable. It's looking like less than conjecture now, as it used to, and looking more like a discrete possibility. So take care of your physical health, take care of your mental health. If at all possible, pay even attention to your emotional health, as difficult as that can be to do in these challenging times. All of the aspects of health are critically important and should be paid close attention to, because you will need to be in a healthy state to survive what's coming and to prosper in the future. So those are the initiatic processes that can really help anybody, whether they're a religionist, whether they're a flat earther, or whether they're just an average person. And they can even help people who have garnered a decent amount of understanding about how the behavioral laws of our reality function and the unfortunate condition that we find humanity in at this time. It can help everybody. It's not for select elite groups of people. It's for every human being, that entire initiatory process. I speak about it a lot in my work at What on Earth is Happening. You could find some more about it there.
Well said.
That's great.
Yeah.
Luemas, do you want to take the floor for a second here? Do we have more questions for Mark before we go to? I wanted to bring up that Cass Sunstein paper, but
why don't you go ahead and bring that up? I just know, like, my biggest, like, I don't even have beef with people. Like, I don't care what people think either. They can do whatever the hell they want, but when it comes to the work that we do, I don't like being associated with people that are polluting this, and
Right.
that's one of my biggest pet peeves. Like, yeah, I don't care what people believe in. They can believe in Santa Claus, they can believe in giant aliens that are going to come and save us. But in the end, I just want the real work not to be polluted. And that bothers me a lot, because I'm going to get associated with that. Just like Q, like people think that, we talk about this stuff. Oh, you must like Q and Trump. No, I don't. I don't even believe in government, and then that's the kind of things that we have to work through, that just to explain these people, and they just write you off immediately. So it's hard.
See, you're free to associate who you wish to associate with. They're free to associate who they wish to associate with. I don't try to force association. They do try to force association. And that's, again, the nature of the psyop. The nature of the psyop isn't really even about the shape of the planet. The nature of the psyop is about forcing association with this movement, with the freedom community. It's like you said about Trump, like people who believe in Q and Trump and all of that, and are political in every aspect of their makeup. And then, like, I'll walk out in public, and because I look like a masculine guy, people be like, you must be a Trump supporter. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with that megalomaniac. You know what I mean? I don't believe in politics. I'm going to go out and vote for a master. I don't need a master. I have mastery over myself. I don't need someone else governing me. I don't want anybody to set laws, because the creator has already done that. And no man, woman, or group of people will ever set any laws that trump the laws of the creator of the universe. The end. Those are the only laws anybody needs to live under. Problem is that they don't know them, because they're so ignorant, and they're worried about the shape of a planet instead of the actual laws of God. What do you think's more important, the shape of a planet or the laws of the creator that govern human behavior, and whether we're in alignment with morality or not? And if we're out of alignment with it, we're slaves, and if we're in alignment with it, we're free. You don't think that's a little bit more important? Just a tiny sliver more important than what these people are trying to push on other people? That's what blows my mind, is what the intelligence sorcerers can actually get human beings to believe is important. And they know how easily swayed. That when you hear what Sean's going to bring up about Sunstein's paper, it's amazing. These people know exactly where they have humanity. They know exactly how tight of a grip they have on the human mind.
Absolutely.
It's like it's an occult mockery. I mean, it's straight up mockery.
Yes.
Yeah. So everybody that is watching can see, I'm sharing a screen here. This is a paper published for Harvard University Law School, University of Chicago Law School, and it's titled Conspiracy Theories, written by Cass R. Sunstein, University of Chicago Law School, and Adrian Vermeule from Harvard University, Harvard Law School. And this paper can be found, you can download it for free at ssrn.com/abstract equals 1084585. So that's for the listeners. They can write it down with a pen.
Okay.
Those of you that are watching. So, okay, written in 08. All right. This is the abstract. I'm just going to read the abstract here. It's just one paragraph. Okay. Many millions of people hold conspiracy theories. They believe that powerful people have worked together in order to withhold the truth about some important practice or some terrible event. A recent example is the belief, widespread in some parts of the world, that the attacks of 9/11 were carried out not by Al-Qaeda, but by Israel or the United States. So that's their problem. That's what they're trying to fix, right? So anyway, they're framing it. Okay, so back to the words here. Those who subscribe to conspiracy theories may create serious risks, including risks of violence, and the existence of such theories raises significant challenges for policy and law. The first challenge is to understand the mechanisms by which conspiracy theories prosper. The second challenge is to understand how such theories might be undermined. Such theories typically spread as a result of identifiable cognitive blunders. Cognitive blunder on my part right there reading. So, operating in conjunction with informational and reputational influences. A distinctive feature of conspiracy theories is their self-sealing quality. That's very important. Conspiracy theorists are not likely to be persuaded by an attempt to dispel their theories. They may even characterize that very attempt as further proof of the conspiracy, because those who hold conspiracy theories typically suffer from a crippled epistemology, which Mark brought up earlier, in accordance with which it is rational to hold such theories. The best response consists in cognitive infiltration of extremist groups.
Yep.
That's the anarchist
Meaning
community.
we'll infiltrate the freedom community who
Yes.
actually doesn't want to live under slavery,
Right.
and will associate it with all of these ridiculous conspiracy theories. This is why I don't particularly prefer the term conspiracy theorist at all. I don't consider myself a theorist of any kind, and I don't have a crippled epistemology. I know exactly how epistemology works and how to conduct an epistemological seeking and really come to accurate conclusions about how things work and what has been or has not been done. I don't consider myself a conspiracy theorist at all. I call myself a whistleblower. I'm a whistleblower of the occult world and how it works and operates in all of the institutions of our society. But yeah, Sunstein is talking about how he and the intelligence agencies really understand people's crippled epistemology, that they do not know how to arrive at knowledge at all. They just have out of control dogmatic belief systems. And that's why people believe in nonsensical conspiracy theories such as, the earth is flat and they're hiding, that from us. They're hiding a lot of much more important things from us, like how natural law works. And people not knowing that leads them directly into slavery. People, even if, it were true that they're hiding the shape of the planet from us, that's not going to put us into slavery, because believing whatever you want about the shape of a planet isn't immoral. Not understanding how rights work, what rights are, what violations of rights actually are, is immoral. You're going to be led into, in that level of ignorance, you're going to be led to do or condone all kinds of immoral things. And that's what's going to make human beings completely enslaved.
That's right.
Right.
So they're infiltrating the people that believe the truth of the globe and the heliocentric model, and they're breaking that apart. And like in the words of if the listeners read this themselves, they'll talk about deconstructing the basic elements of knowledge within the minds of these people. So they make you question their intent. What they say in this paper is that in order to save the government, save the United States, they need to dispel people who believe in these conspiracy theories from believing such things. And so they're going to give them, they're going to cognitively infiltrate, and they're going to make them question the reality of that conspiracy. So in the reality that they're questioning is that the earth is like, it's one of the most obvious things that's provable. And they convince us they convince those that are duped that they can't believe their own eyes, that
Right.
the moon has its own light, gravity doesn't exist, and then when you ask a flat earther, well, what, and they try to explain to you about something getting pulled to the floor, and I say, well, what pulls it to the floor? What's the force? Right. And they just, and then they say they want to kill me or something. Right? It's so that is the exact thing. And what I kind of mentioned earlier about how it destroys people's personal relationships. I had a gentleman who wrote a book about being down the rabbit holes and being a conspiracy theorist. And his book was basically his journey of losing his family and his wife and kids. They don't like him anymore. And he's
Oh, wow.
wrote a book sad about that. I don't remember exactly the guy's name. He was on William Ramsey's show before. But anyway, I sent him back an email and I said, yeah, I think that would be a good idea to talk about that dynamic of interpersonal relationships with this kind of journey. And in the email response, I said, as long as it's not crazy stuff like flat Earth. And he sent me back this email that was like 4 pages long, just cutting me down. You piece of crap, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking in my mind, okay, so that's how he treats people.
That's why his family left.
That's why his family, yes, exactly. And this cognitive infiltration has done that to this poor individual. He's alone now. And he writes a book and he's going to go on some podcasts and he thinks he's going to find, fulfilling life in that. But his children, they think he's crazy.
They captured a lot of people in the freedom community, a lot, which is terrible.
Very sad.
It's like a cult came along and just swooped all these people away. That's what happened. They went with the cult.
Yeah. And even if we're looking at conspiracies, it works the opposite of top-down compartmentalized conspiracies, pyramid conspiracies work. The few at the top know what's going on. Everyone else kind of down the line just follows orders, but not millions of people in on it. I get to these like balloon launches on YouTube and there's flat earthers on there saying, this guy has like 100,000 followers at the most, he's in on it, and that, if there was millions of people in on it, we'd have whistleblowers, some space agencies saying, yeah, I used to launch rockets and it's just a cover, man. Space is fake and Earth is flat. Our job is really just to hide the shape of the Earth.
They actually believe that if this is the Earth, that rockets take off like this and go straight up. They don't even understand orbital trajectories. And they're like, why is it flying, quote, sideways? It's like, it's on an orbital trajectory. It doesn't mean you go orthogonally straight up.
Well, what do you mean? It goes straight up and then it hits the firmament and it scrapes the firmament and you see the scrape of the watery ether behind it.
Yeah,
the whole thing, meteors are just pieces of the firmament that have broken loose. Yeah.
The ceiling.
Maybe that's what. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, like these people believe in HARP, right? And HARP bounces rays off the ionosphere around the Earth. How does that work on a flat Earth model?
Right.
Yeah. Or trajectory of missiles that the military sets out, they have to adjust it to a curve. I don't know.
Well, missiles and nuclear bombs are fake too.
Oh, that's right.
Imagine not believing or not understanding that down is toward the center of the Earth, anywhere on the Earth, and you hear this model that a plane would have to continuously point its nose downward to be to follow the curvature of the Earth, not even understanding size, scale.
Or that gravity pulls on every molecule of that plane in the same way.
Of course.
So of course it doesn't need to redirect because it's being pulled down. I mean, that's one of the funniest ones, the plane one, that people get real mad.
It really all comes from their lack of understanding of scale and proportion. They don't understand size. If they really understood size better, there's some videos out there that are called, one of them's called Better Proportions for Flat Earthers to Understand the Size of the Earth. I actually included this one on the ARC drive. I don't know if it's still out there anywhere, but it's a very good one. There's another one that talks about, I'm not really sure who did it, but it's about how topologically smooth the planet is. And literally, like if Mount Everest, it was on a basketball, how tiny it would be. You wouldn't even be able to feel it. It's like, somebody else drew the surface of the Earth to scale and put Mount Everest on it, and it's so unbelievably tiny that you can barely see it. And we think, these guys think that you'll be able to see the curvature from a very, very, very small distance upward. It's like they really just don't have any sense of scale of how really, truly large things are.
I know. Or the spin of the Earth. They think the Earth, because we don't feel the spin, it's subtle. It's like, and I've been in the Space Needle in Seattle. They have that revolving restaurant, and you don't really notice you're revolving. It's a slow thing. If you're in a plane going 400 miles an hour, you don't feel the speed. Only time you feel the speed is when it changes. So these people don't have a sense of like what I guess you would say, just how things work in general. Yeah, cosmology, all this. I don't know.
Water can't stick to the surface of a ball is one of the things you'll hear a lot from them, because again, they don't believe that gravity is an attractive force pulling all matter toward a center. And they think that the Earth spins so quickly it would throw the oceans off of it. I mean, instead of understanding it's massive and it only rotates once per 24 hours. I mean, picture a ball rotating once per 24 hours. I mean, and then you just expand the size. Sorry, Sean, we didn't hear that. Yeah.
Sorry, I was on mute. But I said, but it's millions of miles per hour. Oh,
yeah. Because it's 1,000 miles per hour, because it's a 25,000 mile circumference.
Right.
It's really a shame, though. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's like what it really is. I'll wrap up on this idea, is that the whole educational system of the planet has failed. Regardless of the shape of the Earth, the educational outreach efforts and the just general educational facilities everywhere on this planet have failed people. And that really goes to one dynamic: parenting, because that's the ultimate avenue or aspect of education of the young that has completely and utterly, abjectly failed. And we need better parenting so that people don't grow up to be that ignorant. We need parents taking a vested interest in the real education of their child, not the indoctrination of the public school. Which means to lead one out of the darkness of ignorance, from the Latin educo, meaning to lead out of. And what you're being led out of when you're truly educated is you're being led out of darkness. And then you can actually see the light, and then you can actually receive the light, which is going to teach you true morals. And then you'll be truly raised. The problem is we don't have parents raising their children. We have parents letting their children down.
Letting them
that has to change.
By the government.
That's right.
The government do it.
Imagine. And that's why we have all of people who can't even understand basic arithmetic, geometry, and astronomy. And that's a sad, sad state of affairs.
They graduate, they can't read, some of them.
Right.
Wow.
Not to mention all the degradation just through all the media and all the stuff and the chemicals in the water, food, air. It's just...
It's a gauntlet that we have to run. I mean, it's no easy task. Not going to lie and tell people it's easy, but you got to take a vested interest in yourself and your own education, and you got to start working to improve. You can't stay where you're at. As many people will say, a year from now, you're either going to have a year of progress or you're going to have a year making more excuses. Don't let it be the latter. Make progress. As long as there's steady progress, I think we'll be okay in the long term. But we can't sit still. We can't be stagnant. We have to move in consciousness. We have to grow in consciousness. And that involves setting our ego to the side when it comes to dogmatic belief systems, and really employing the true truth discovery methodology of the trivium, and truly learning objective morality and natural law. When we do those things, there'll be no stopping humanity.
That's right.
And hopefully that'll be the case at some distant point in the future.
And the care for others. Like right now, no matter how, like, we are sick of flat Earth. But we're still doing this here for all of you that need to hear it. It's very important. Just consider the ideas that we have brought forth. Please let information into your brain. Please learn. We love you, and we want you to come to the truth. This is, we're not trying to beat down anybody. We want
No.
everybody is the human family, and we are doing this here, this 2-hour show, to welcome you all and to maybe help bring some of the light to your brains.
Amen.
Yeah. And there's probably a lot of people that are on the fence. They don't really, want to be on either side. And I just hope to, lend a little help to these people that can just kind of see, because most of the people that are talking like us are mainstream normies who believe in the system and believe in all the different, organized society. We're not those people. We're trying to speak from within this. And,
Right.
Yeah.
It's a
Reality
very good
is
point.
complicated.
Okay.
It's not one way. It's not simple, right? It's you have to understand there's nuances to things, right? When it comes to natural law, it's an absolute, because that's the force that governs behavioral dynamics. But when it comes to these people's understanding of things, they're operating from a very simplistic, overly simplified worldview. And what people have to understand is that's where religions come out of, because they don't push you to think deeper. They don't push you to think in a more complex way. And that's what we're trying to explain to people. Religion doesn't want you to learn and grow. Religion wants you to accept dogma and stay exactly where you're at, know your role, and shut your mouth. Real understanding wants you to grow. It wants you to move. It doesn't want you to stay exactly where you're at. It wants you to evolve and move forward. And that's our hope for humanity. It's not to push a religion onto somebody. It's to encourage them to think for themselves outside the box that has been created for them. If we do that, we're going to see real progress and freedom in humanity. If we don't, it's going to be more of the same.
That was perfectly said, Mark. Thank you so
I think
much.
that's a good place to end it right there. All right.
That's right. Thank you for joining us on
Absolutely.
Chant It Down and Wake the Dead. And we hope that there will be future shows, conversations in the future. I'm very, we're very thankful that you've blessed us with your time and attention, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Again.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Pleasure to be here. Great interview. And I'll see you guys soon.
All right.
Thank you, Mark. Bye-bye.
Take care.